All right. It is indeed a very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is the 17th of February 2023, tarehe 17 mwezi wa pili mwaka 2023. Natumai kwamba umeamka salama. I hope you've woken up well. It's a Friday. It's Friday. Finally, it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. 17th of February 2023. And this is the Tackle Sharia Wiki edition. Please, when you're joining, please like when you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. When you're joining, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. Tuko na mheshimiwa Philemon Sabulei. Tulikuanga naye chini ya miti miaka zingine. Sijui alipita hapa nikasikia kidogo amekuwa mheshimiwa. Kama kawaida tuko na Gavana P Muchendu.
Mungu ni nani wewe?
Mwenyewe Mungu. Nikijia alisema Mungu akule managu kayole. Right. First of all, tuanze mapema. First time people to join in the tackle and share. Please, when you join in and share, not just joining in. If you join in and share, then we're going to give you some airtime rewards. Now, number one, Alan Kiprotich Sire, number 1, asante sana. Jose Oleguna, number 2, Babake Willy, number 3. Alba Abdallah Yulemse, number 4. Karomema, number 5. Munga Alita Continue, number 6. Isaac Kori, number 7. Alan Kiprotich, I've seen one Alan Kiprotich, okay? Nianze tena. Number 1, Alan Kiprotich, asante. Jose Leguna, number 3, Babake Willy, number 4, Alba Yulemse, number 5, Karo Mema, number 6, Munga Lita Continue all the way from Coventry, United Kingdom, number 7, Isaac Korir, number 8, George Ian, number 9, and Elvis Kiprop, number 10. Okay? Tunaanza tena. Elvis Kiprop, wewe number 10. Babake Willy, number 9. George Ian, number 8. Isaac Korir, number 7. Munga Lita Continue, number 6. Karo Memo, number 5. Alba Yulemse, number 4. Babake Willy, number 3. Jose Oleguna, number 2. And Alan Kiprotich, number 1. Haya, those are the first 10 that we have on the tackle this morning. When you join in, please like when you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. It's the Sharia Wiki edition of the 17th of February 2023. And it begins right now. Lakini kama kawaida, tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe. Tukirudi, tunakuja kuona ni nani ameweza kuamka. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. Even thank you for this conversation. We thank you for every tackler who is joining in. As they join in, may you meet them at their point of individual needs. We pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Haya, Munga Lita Continue, habari ya UK, United Kingdom, asante sana. Coventry, United Kingdom, good morning to you. Georgian, good morning. Babaka Willy, good morning. Solomon Kiambi, good morning. Good morning to you, Solo. Dennis Langat, good morning to you. My brother, I hope you're doing well. Paul Kibiego, good morning. Gerald and guest, good morning to you, Paul. Paul, tulikuwa na shule kitambo. Kipkwe Dresser, a very good morning to you. Good morning to you, sir. Chesile Philemon Kimutai, how are you, Mr. Bitok? Good morning to you, my brother. I hope you're doing well. Rono Matt, am I almost the first 10? Kima umana ndugu, wewe uko sasa namba 30. Uko mwisho. Nick Mosose, good morning GB, good morning to you. Romano Tundu, tuko live from Muranga. Asante sana to Muranga. Please let me know where you're watching us from this morning. When you join in, please like. And after like, please share. And after you share, please niambie unatazama kutoka wapi asubuhi ya leo. It's a Sharia Wiki edition of the 17th of February 2023. Let's see who is also up on YouTube. This man is on Facebook. Let's see who is up on YouTube this morning. Joel Arama, chairman, good morning. Good morning to you, Joel Arama. I hope you're doing well. Karibu sana. Keren Juguna, good morning. Good morning to you. Joel Arama, sama sisi tuko YouTube. Karibu sana. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So some of the issues that are on the menu this morning, the things that are on the menu this morning, one of them, of course, is the ruling yesterday on the CAS positions that the president is finally free to appoint the CAS. Wageni wangu, kuna mtu anacheza audio hapa, lazima ni Muchendu. Nashukuru ni Muchendu. Okay. Ama ni mimi. Haya. Alright, sasa nashukuru mwingine kumbe ni mimi. Well, one of the issues, of course, is the ruling on the CAS, and they have said that the president is finally free to appoint the CAS. The constitution has been, the conflict on the CAS position has been based on the constitution. I don't know what's going to happen now. What are the constitutional implications? The also speaker will help us look into that. Dr. Ekuru should be on his way. I think he should be here shortly, as well, so they can help us look into that. Also, the arrest of David Posing on the allegations that he is funding bandits in the area of that north area of the Rift. So we'll be able to know and look at that as well. And also try to analyze. It's good also that we have a speaker from Elgeyo Marakwet County. He comes from that region. He'll help us understand, is it banditry ya kuiba ng'ombe ama banditry ya economic crime? from the conversations that Natembeya subjected us to this week, he brought in a different angle that actually the issues of banditry is not an issue of theft. It's an issue of business. It's a business, economic terrorism. Hi. Eshimio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Uliamua kuniacha chini ya miti.
Ndio nimerudi sasa.
Na ulipita wapi bwana? Kama vile William tu Orengo aliuliza William alipita wapi, want to ask you ulipita wapi?
Nikujipanga.
But good to see you up in here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's good to see you. Karibu sana. Talk all this your first time.
Yeah, this is my first time.
Karibu. Unaonaje maneno huko?
Maneno si mbaya. Nipo Nairobi ni kuzuri.
Nairobi?
I'm happy to be here.
Inategemea upande gani.
Thank God I'm here. Good work, bro.
So this is the tackle and we get to really speak head on issues that affect the country. We don't maneuver. Tuendange kando kando tunazunguka wapi. Hapa tunalimanga vile iko. Na tumefanya hivyo namna hiyo kwa muda mrefu. So please when you come in, remove all the bells. Toa mshipi, toa safety bell, fanya nini basi. Hapa ni kinungi kwa mtaramuko. Unasonga kusonga. Ayasalimia watu Elgeyo Marakwet, alafu usalimia tacklers as well who have joined us, who are with us this morning. Your camera just right ahead of you.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Bitok. And I'm very happy to join you this morning and also the rest of the Kenyans in having these very important discussions. Watu wa Elgeyo Marakwet, nawasalamia sana and thank you for supporting me and the county assembly and the county government and all the leaders as we seek to develop our county. All the county assemblies across the country where I serve as the chairperson. Nawasalamia sana. Let's work hard to develop and grow devolution in this country. My name is Hon.Kiplagat Sabulei. I'm the speaker of Elgeyo Marakwet County and serving chairperson of County Assembly Forum. And I'm glad to join the rest of Kenyans this morning so that we dig into the issues that really affect us nationally. And as Gerald has said, we'll be as candid, open and clear as the time would allow us to be.
Hapa tumembeleze punda kwa mteremko inaenda kwenda. Haya. Collins Adagwa ndio tukuja kwa Muchendu. Collins Adagwa, good morning to you. Collins, I hope you're doing well this morning. Nick Mosa say hello Sabulei. Kibet Nick Kangonyot, locked in gentleman Santa Peter Murray. Good morning to Ekuru. Good morning Mr. Gerald. Good morning Benefene Mwangi. Bitok salimia Governor Muchendu sana. Limuru's finest. Joseph Oleguna Lavington Nairobi tuned in ndani kabisa. Asante. SU Mahatha tuned in from County 020. Asante Chisile Philemon Kimuta. I am watching from Lodwar Boys High School Turkana County. Salimia sana watu wa Lodwar. Kipoe Johnson tuned in from Oma Bay. Watu wa Oma Bay, mambo vipi Kiplagat? Matebor, first time on the tackle. Good morning. So good morning to you. Na karibu sana. The first time on the tackle. Makofi kwako. Bas, haya. Asbona mbani kwa mpigo sana. Asante si na kuona Evans Kipchirchir. Good morning. Jola Rama Bitok, you forgot watu wa YouTube. Nimefika huko tayari. Manu kwa good morning. So good morning. Julius Rona, good morning. Jane Mumbi, Jane Safaris by Jane. Good morning and God bless. Thank you so much. Masichela. Yes, you shared. Asante Mbocha Peter Mwangi. Good morning there. Good morning to Alan Kiproti Chesire. Good morning Gerald. Romano Ntundu tuko live from Muranga. Watu wa Muranga wanahatia. Haya, Muchendu.
Good morning Bitok.
Salimia wananchi.
Yes, it's good to be here this year.
Happy New Year. Hata ujengea hapa.
Nimefika hapa nimeona kiasi kimebadilika kweli.
Si kiosk tena imekuwa supermarket.
Ndio lazima it has grown from a kiosk to a supermarket.
Supermarket.
Seems as the rest of us are struggling. You're doing well yourself.
No, even you. It's also growth for you. To imagine that you've been here since the first day that this show started, and you've seen how far we've come from the pinhole cameras. Actually, someone insulted us. I remember there's a guy called Gabriel Oguda.
I remember.
He insulted us on Twitter and said we are using pinhole cameras. Oguda, karibu sana. Oguda, I want to welcome you to come and see what the Lord has done. I want to welcome you to see what the Lord has done. You are right to use the pinhole cameras. Lakini sasa Mungu pia ni nani? Mungu hakuna sukuma kwa mtu kule manago. The guy told us on Twitter
I would say that we keep growing. Yeah. But one of the things that remains constant in this show that we don't beat around the bush. Yeah. We always hit the nail where it matters most. And it's one of the shows that despite what we cannot fail to show up when called upon to come and discuss matters of national importance. And I want to say hi to all the tacklers who have been with us, because without those people on the other end, this show will not exist. And they have been very constant. I remember the first time I came here, the tacklers handled me very well. I got a good beating. But what I love about them is that they shape the opinions and they help you grow as you come here and discuss and analyze matters with the response that they always give timely and instantly. You are able to grow, and they always give you a challenge that every time you leave this studio, you will go and make research your friend, so that tomorrow when you come here, whatever you say, it's something you can back up.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, Asante Muchendu, and also thank you so much for sticking with us. Let's get straight into the business of the day. Now, we'll start with the CAS positions that finally the president has been given a green light to appoint the CASs, or assistant ministers, if you may. All right. Mheshimiwa Sabulei, are these positions constitutional?
Gerald, this debate has been with us in this country for quite some time now. I remember even during the last administration, Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, there were issues around the legality of the positions. We also have even the legality of the process in which the nominees or the people who are identified to occupy those offices is taken into the process. So it's an issue that really we must have a candid discussion as a country, even at the backdrop of the fact that now the court has pronounced itself and declared that the process that was followed by PSC was proper and in line with the law. The number of positions which are created to run the political affairs and the administration of a government, and we may not really police any administration in trying to design offices and administration that works for them. In the previous administration, of course, the government saw it fit that it was important to have CAS positions, perhaps to support the operations of the ministries. One will say that, there is a clash of roles between the CAS and the principal, secretaries. One will also want to argue politically that the CAS will play the role that was, previously, played by the assistant ministers. But the point that we must ask ourselves is it value for money? Are there no overlap of roles in these ministries? Because many times you've seen that even in many ministries, really, CAS may not have had very clear understanding of what their roles are. And one would be forgiven to say that these are just become political rewardees, those who have seen to support the administration of the day. But be as it may, one, we will respect the ruling of the court, that the process that was followed by PSC in these current processes was legal, and that the establishment of the CS position is also okay and legal. The only thing that Kenyans must always demand from the government is the value for money for those positions, and those who shall be appointed to the offices of CAS must be seen to serve this country in a manner that public service demands of them.
So, and then that comes and the right question: is it value for money? What is the value? Do we need these positions? What is missing in this administrative link in the ministries? What is that gap that is missing that we are seeking so much to fill? That we are saying we must fill it, and now the expenditure that gets into fitting, setting up those offices, and the expense that goes even into running those offices, is it a necessary cost? In all honesty, is it?
I have never been a player in the ministries of the national government. But I'll just speak from what the government itself says about the justification for those positions. That CAS will support the performance of the PSS. They will do liaison with other government intergovernmental relations like counties. They will also liaise with the Senate and National Assembly on matters relating to those particular ministries. Well, that might be a value that accrues to the ministry. Though I have a different thinking, that if we really wanted to give efficiency to the performance of public service, a ministry as always, and it still has the resources and the officers within those ministries who can do that particular work. And if you ask me also, at some point, you find that it's a cause for inefficiencies, because you'll have a CAS who will feel that, they will need to undertake, particular roles in the public service in that particular ministry, which of course PS and other officers will also want to carry those performance because it's part of the job description. So in absence of a proper job description as to what CAS do, and without glossing with amorphous wordings, just to justify the positions, I really think that the government, because we have said more than once that this government is struggling. We are told that it inherited the dilapidated economy. So we cannot, as the president will say, continue digging a hole. Now that we have found ourselves in what is said to be a big hole. So this government must, in moving in line with its the narrative, ensure that even as those officers come into office, they make it very clear as to what are the proposition, value that they bring to the ministries and the public service, and what clearly are their job description and performance duties, independent from all other offices in the ministries.
Okay. All right. What are your thoughts, Muchendu?
Well, one of the major issue with Kenyans is that, as the speaker has said, they are yet to understand what are the elaborate laws of a CAS. And it will be, it's sad that we have had them. They are not coming as new. We have already had the first session of those CASs. But yet Kenyans are yet to understand what are the laws of CAS. If you remember, the most visible CAS during the Kenyatta administration, they were only seen doing politics. People like the former women left Nairobi. What do you call her? Can't remember the name. People like the guy with big hair from Moranga, who was the CAS, Zach Kinodia. I mean, the CAS...
That is the easiest way you could describe it.
No, then I'm doing a very good description. You don't need to so much guessing who it is. Point is that, as the speaker has said, the issue is not the possession. The issue is, how is that possession going to enhance delivery of services to Kenyans? Well, to some extent, I want to believe that it is true if the wording chief administrative secretaries in the ministry, you realize that the principal secretaries have a lot of work cut out for them. And that begs the question is whether would need the CAS or would need to increase the efficiency of the officers working in those ministries. If you take, for instance, the Ministry for Roads, there's a lot of weighty works that the principal secretary needs to do. And as a principal secretary, you cannot be the implementer and still be able to help your CS to formulate policies. You require people to help you. Now, it is the question whether that help you needed should come in form of a CAS or should come in form of training and elevating the officers within the department to be able to do that responsibility. The onus on the government of the Honorable William Ruto is to prove the worthiness of that position called CAS. We are not casting the CAS on, it's not being cast on stones. All Kenyans are saying is, can we see the worthiness of having a position of a chief administrative secretary so that we can support that? Because if you look at the job description and the so far say job description, it's not very clear. But obviously you do not expect those people to be in the lowest job groups. You expect the positions to attract quite some good salary in the levels of job group S going forward there. And therefore that's quite a substantial amount you're paying someone, and that must reflect. Nonetheless, we have to agree that this process has gone through our judicial system. And we have given ourselves this judicial system. So the speaker is a lawyer. He would elaborate more. But I want to believe that now there's nothing that is stopping His Excellency the President from appointing the CAS, considering that the shortlisting and the interviews had already taken place. So probably he will now name the CAS of various different state departments. So what we need to do is, the people who get the honor to be on those positions must prove to Kenyans that indeed this was a very much deserved position for government to actually entertain going to court and defending it. It is worth it is. So I think majorly that's the issue. The issue is not possession. Like it's the same way I tell you, the issue is never going to parliament and making laws. This country has enough laws to be one of the best performing countries. But the question is, after we make the laws, do we implement them accordingly? Then the question is, now that we have these positions, those who will ascend to those positions, are they going to make it worthwhile to Kenyans? Because they will be paid with taxpayers' money. Yes. So they need to deliver for us. They need to actually, because the only way Kenyans will understand the laws of a CAS, it is how they will see them perform, because you cannot now start telling Kenyans how what the CAS is supposed to do. Now that we have, the ship has already left the dock and we are heading into likelihood, we may hear even today or Monday the appointments being made. So let those who get to those appointments prove to Kenyans that indeed that particular position was worthwhile for government to create it.
Okay, all right, and Arama is raising a very important question here, and he is asking, what is their performance metrics? Maybe you can help us, because you've been in an administration now. This is your second year. This is your second time in admins. What is the deliverable? What are the metrics? What are the performance metrics for the CSS? And even as we look back, what can we say that this is what they help deliver?
Yeah, I think as Governor here has mentioned, the biggest duty that this government will have, and those who will occupy these positions, is actually to prove and build confidence of Kenyans that those positions were really well merited, and that the same are justified in terms of the output of the public service. One, to answer your question, it is not the first time that we are having this CAS position. This is the second time. Perhaps we should look back and say, what were the deliverables? What were the performance output of the previous holders of CAS? Unfortunately, of course, unless of course anyone has a different opinion, unfortunately from where I sit, there was very little that was seen from the previous CAS, other than using the quagmire in the government and the issues then of handshake and everything, just to propagate politics of the day, of course, in support of the appointing authority. And that's why we truly pray that those who would come this time round will put public service ahead of any other issues and considerations. As to how now then we will measure their performance is, it will depend on now the responsibilities and the job description that will be given. It is important that the public service commissions make it very clear and public what are the job descriptions of these people, what are their performances, what are their terms of reference, against which then we can measure their performance against that which is their mandate.
Okay. So clearly as it is, we cannot measure performance, and we don't have records on the value addition that we got from the last cohorts of the CAS positions. So it will be interesting to see how the government is going, first of all, to outline the need for them and to set responsibility, because without a metric, a delivery metric, then we can never tell the value that we are getting. Like Muchendu was rightfully said, is at the end of the day, taxpayers' money is going to be used to facilitate these offices. Money is going to be used to run these offices. They'll need employees, they'll need vehicles. As it is now, we have already spent close to 4 billion in vehicles. All right. So it'll be interesting to see how that office is going to be set up and how the government is going to justify it, and also the deliverables. Even as we talk about measuring performance, you'll be able to look back and say, okay, these are the values that we have. So the big question is, do you feel as a citizen that you need the CAS position? Do you feel you need it? Do you feel there's a gap in administration and governance that you think would be filled up if we had the CAS Chief Administrative Secretary coming in? There's a question for you. Now, let's go to the north, where our good brother Philemon Sabulei, Mheshimiwa, comes from. We've been having the issues of banditry and insecurity. And yesterday, there were interesting news that Mheshimiwa David Kwasing has been arrested. So this is what happened. Apparently, there were some 7 young people from West Pokot, or from Pokot, who were arrested and were taken to Kitale Law Courts on allegations that they were bandits or they were cattle rustlers. Let's not say bandits, cattle rustlers. Now, apparently, our good brother Kwasing sent his helicopter to go and pick these 7 gentlemen from Kitale Law Court. And that is why he's been arrested. That is part of the people that are funding insecurities in that side of the rift. First of all, I think we need to start from the beginning. What is the problem in that area of the north? Mheshimiwa.
On the face of it, of course, it's just normal, banditry and cattle rustling, where communities want to acquire, of course, wealth through acquisition of livestock from the other community or from the other section of the region. That is what has always been. That is what is said to be the culture that has lived in those regions for many years. It's not something that is new. Now, what should worry us is that it's no longer about a normal banditry.
Okay.
This issue has escalated into some sense of criminality. Children are being killed. Women are being killed. We see when the nature of the murder that is instigated to the victim is one that was not really geared towards killing a person to acquire the livestock. There's also an aspect of trying to create more bigger space of land, perhaps to access water and pasture. Now, other than being a criminal network in that region, I think the criminality is because over time, now the warring communities, every community wants to do some revenge. That this time round, the communities from Aukot or Marakwet or Turkana came to our region, they took our cows, and they also killed our children, or our mothers. Now, subsequently, the community will also try to find a way through their men and what they call their boys to also instigate a similar atrocities to the other community. That circle of revenge is turning it into a very serious criminal activity. But what funds all these activities and criminality over this period of years? It has been said, and I think there is a truth to it, and the government should look into it, that just a common individuals in Kapedo, in Endo, in Kapeto, in West Pokot and Tiaty cannot be so strong that even a government has to sit for many years, has to work for many years to determine what is the cause and how to end this banditry. These are people who have unlimited access of bullets. They have unlimited access of firearms. In fact, somebody was saying that even the nature of the firearm they have, their technology could be more modern than even what our officers would be having. That tells you that there is more than meets the eye. And the thought that this is turning into economic activity, a criminal empire that is laced with economic and business empire, it is very true. The number of cows that are stolen and which moves from that region is so huge that if you are to do your simple mathematics, it will come to millions of shillings. The government has done its part in preaching peace and in trying to reconcile the communities. Recently, there was a deployment of NPR along Kerio Valley, mostly along the Elgeyo Marakwet region. That, instead of being a solution, it even escalated the problem, because now we've seen that since the NPR were deployed in that region, there has been more cases of attacks from either side. What tells us is that the problem is much more bigger than that, and I think that the current effort by the government to send even wanajeshi to those regions might be a solution. But one, the government has to employ serious intelligence, because just moving in on the issue of force may not be helpful at all. Those are guys who understand their terrain. The community know where these people are. They know where the firearms are. None of them have surrendered the firearms as we speak today. And, that tells you that what the government should do mostly, even as they move in with the security forces, is to employ very strong intelligence on who are the people who own these firearms, who are the people who supplies bullets and these firearms to the communities, and what is the destination of these kettles that are stolen from various communities. Now, it is out for us now to see what will happen, but I think that for what the government is currently doing, it might amount to something.
But the question is then, I think the biggest problem that has been there in terms of fixing the problems that we have in this country is the mismatch between the problem and the solutions. We misdiagnose. Yeah, because clearly that's what is happening with that. Because if we had the right diagnosis, then probably we would have fixed it. We would have given a possible solution to that, or a tailor-made solution to that problem. So what are the chances that we are, even as we are sending these troops, we are giving the wrong treatment to a wrong diagnosis? Because like you said, there has to be a bigger motivation than just being a criminal. Where do these cows go to? And the angle that has been raised by Mheshimiwa, by the governor, that is Natembeya, on the issues of the benefits of who benefits from these crimes. Where do these cows go? Who benefits? Who is the beneficiary? What is the root cause? Because I don't think it's just crime. You cannot just wake up in the morning and decide you're just going to kill people randomly. If it was just about killing people, then you'd kill them and leave their cows.
Correct.
You know. So what is actually the foundational motivation for this crime?
That is what will now help us, Gerald, to determine the actual solution to this problem, so that we don't just move in as a leadership or as government agencies to try treat in the manner that we think that could be the way that the solution will be gotten. And I mentioned that the government, even as they move in, must employ serious intelligence to really understand what is the root problem, what is the root cause, and what are the motivating factors surrounding this particular problem. And I mentioned that recently the government deployed the NPR. In their own opinion, they thought now, yes, this is now the solution. We have the NPR. They will try to stop, the banditry and those infighting within the region, and they will try to protect the community. What did it do? It escalated the problem. That means what the government were trying to cure, actually, we received the contrary results. 2, there's an issue now that we are deploying stronger security forces in the region. Will that be an answer? We are yet to know that. But if it's just about deploying them, just to run around those regions trying to get the firearms from illegal holders, that may not also be the solution. That's why I mentioned that the government, no one has the strongest grip of intelligence in this country than the government itself. So they must employ that intelligence to know where do these people get their firearms, where is the route in which those firearms passes from one hand to the other until it reaches these bandits, who continually feeds these bandits with the bullets, because they are in excess of it. In fact, the policemen can run out of them, but the bandits will still have them. Where are these cows taken to? What is the route? What is the security agencies doing in that region that these cows can exit from that region to another region, to the other markets without their knowledge? So the government really, even in trying to use the force, must use more of intelligence if it must get the actual problem and the root problems and the causes, because there's a agency of all those issues that comes together. That treating only one problem against all others may not really bring a solution.
So on the arrest of Kosing, do you think the local leaders are part of this scheme? What are your thoughts? Because I know it's an issue already that's already being addressed by authorities, but now even citizens would want to know, what is the role of leadership? Do you think the part of the problem could be the local leadership?
Of course, the role of leaders really is to help their people really understand the need for peace, just to ensure that they talk to the young men not to continue with this particular culture. The role of leadership, just like the government, is to ensure that there is development in those regions that will make people move away from those traditional bad cultures and behaviors. And also, of course, to ensure that there is cohesion between the communities within those regions, where leadership plays a clear role in ensuring that that sharp division and hatred among the neighboring communities is instigated, where a leader supports the purchase of firearms, the purchase of those bullets and such. Then, of course, that's where now we get to the problem. I really don't know about what Kosing would do, but what I know is that majority of leaders would want to appear that they support their people at the time of need. And perhaps what Mheshimiwa was trying to do is to ensure that at the time that their people were undergoing a little problem regarding this issue, that he comes and support them. But at the end of the day, as I said earlier, Gerald, the government has bigger intelligence than any one of us.
Okay.
And I believe that when they move in to arrest an individual, they must, and I hope so, that they have proper information that links that individual to their support to this banditry. And if that is the case, then I don't think that we should just move in with one person. The government should just have an elaborate intelligence program, an elaborate system on how they are going to arrest and charge those individuals, so that we don't see just an event arising from time to time that so and so has been arrested, after 3 months so and so has been arrested. We want an elaborate plan that the government will move in with proper intelligence, knowing the evidence that supports their actions, and do just one thing that will ensure that all those actors that support this banditry are apprehended and may be charged.
Okay. Muchendu, what are your thoughts on the issues of cattle rustling and banditry in North Rift?
I think it's cattle rustling in Kenya today should be classified as organized crime.
Okay.
There's one incident that is very unique, happened in 2017 in Laikipia, where about 135,000 herds of cattle were stolen, and about almost 10,000 pastoralists had firearms. When you look at the kind of firearms they have, and in the magnitude that they have those firearms, you know that somebody somewhere is seriously funding them. I was giving you a story off air that some years back I was at the border of Laikipia and Samburu on the route from Mararel Muruti heading to Mararel, and I met with this group of young men with very sophisticated firearms. I think it was in 2016. And one of the guy had a firearms that, looking at the serial number, it had been produced in 2015. Now, you'll be surprised to know that young man, the farthest he has gone is not even Nyahururu. The farthest he has been from that area is Rumuruti. He will move all the way from the border, go past Marel and go to Baragoi, where you remember sometimes back there was an operation, a government operation. And you realize that a police officer stationed in the same area is using a firearms that was probably produced in 2006. The bandit he's supposed to fight is owning a firearm that is state of the art. And therefore, I agree with the Governor Natembeya that the fights you see from Elgeyo Marakwet going all the way to that rift is financed by people. Now, probably some of us who are not experts in cattle rustling cannot really pinpoint who is. But those of us who are good in research and looking at issues will tell you there is no way a farmer, a pastoralist in Baragoi, which is 180 kilometers from Mararel town, would have a state-of-the-art firearms, and he has never been to Mararel. Somebody somewhere furnishes that person with those firearms. And I keep saying cattle are not like those people who steal our VX and V8s here, that you can engage on a higher gear and move at 160 kilometers and soon you'll not be found. Cattle are, they cannot, even if they did very well, they cannot do 2 kilometers per hour. So when you hear that somebody has stolen 500 heads of cattle and cannot be found, cannot be arrested, it is telling you that somewhere within the security apparatus, there are people who go to bed with the people who are funding this particular exercise, Bitok. And let's not hide about it. We will send our army there, it's all right. We will send our security officers there. But the truth of the matter is, if we do not deal with the people who are funding it, because the business of pastoralists, that particular business of meat, commercial meat business, it has become attractive to so many people that they are willing to do anything to sustain it. And these heads of cattle are disappearing, they are slaughtered, they are put on an airplane, they are exported as part of the export. These are things that surely if you are exporting something, you have to declare what you have exported. And what you have declared has to be looked into whether does it translate to what you own on the ground. Or are you exporting meat that is coming from those stolen herds of cattle? So let's not beat around the bush and critique someone who is in Baragoi, 180 kilometers from Marakwet, that he is a person who is making this business grow. No, he is a mean. He is a mean, he is not the instigator. The instigator, I can tell you, they are pretty sitting in the palatial homes here in Nairobi. And they are funding. Because when you have someone owning an AK-47 that is made somewhere in Belarus, how has that particular weapon found its way from Europe? Bitok, and the way people think you are very exposed. If today I told you to go and buy an AK-47 from the black market, you not know where to start. But apparently somebody who has never seen the door of a classroom in Baragoi has it. How did he get a hold of that firearm if it is not somebody financing it? And I would tell you what government needs to do, as much as what they are doing is something that must be done. But we have to go to something called the root source of our problem. We may stop the war today, but if we do not uproot the instigators of that particular rustling and bandits, we are going to deal with what is called a short-term solution. But in the long term, if it is Bitok or if it is Wakili or it's whoever sitting in Nairobi and fueling it, we must deal with those people. Because anyway, I don't want to say the MP is guilty because I don't know. But doesn't it sound suspicious that 7 people are taken to court in Eldoret and they are charged? And then you want to show the world that you are who is who. You send a helicopter to carry bandits who did not even go to, people who did not even go to class. What are you trying to say? Even if it is your employee, Bitok.
Muchendu, are you saying they need to go to school for them to get into a chopper?
No, I'm just saying, Bitok. Bitok, you work with organizations, whether government or private. You work with them. How many times has organization paid a helicopter ride for you because you have done so well? Let's not kid around the bush. This will not be the first time the said MP is accused of the same. Okay. And I think for me, I don't want to say that he is guilty because I don't know. But I'm also a believer of the saying that where there is fire, there is smoke. Yes, fire. And that is the truth. That was a show of it's like showing the government middle finger when they arraign people in court accused of banditry and castle rustling, and you as a member of parliament from the region decide that you are going to charter a chopper from Nairobi to pick them from Eldoret and drop them to wherever they had been picked. Even if I did not want to think you are guilty, you go into that extravagance. I cannot stop thinking that there is more than meet the eye in this issue. How many time does the speaker here, who is the senior most member of the Elgeyo Marakwet Assembly, take a helicopter ride from here to Nairobi? How many times does he do that? Let's also be, even if you are supposed to rescue your people, don't do things that will draw unnecessary attention to you, like bringing a helicopter ride to pick people from Aukot who have just been charged with the same thing that is disturbing that area. So I think for me, it's the same way I said when he was told Kamahot. I remember the member of parliament for Baringo. Kamket. The same way you remember Kamket here was, sometimes you remember he had been accused of the same. I said, if you are being accused, come to the table with clean hands. Don't do things that will suggest that you are working against the efforts of government. But I say this to the government of the day and the Honorable Kithure Kindiki, that as much as you deal with the perpetrators on the ground, you must extensively and decisively deal with the financiers who are sitting in palatial homes in this Nairobi.
Is it not also curious that there has been a mention of an helicopter ever since, the narratives that have come up? There's been a mention of an helicopter in that area that moves around. Is it a coincidence? Is it not curious? Is it not? Or I'm thinking too much?
Let me tell you. You cannot be that. We are not living in the 1920s, 1930s, when small cattle rustling was a tradition. Those days it was a tradition where young men, for them to be indicted into the world of warriors of the community, they had to get into another community's place and steal cattle just to prove that they are men. That was a tradition that, yes, in some instances it is still there. It needs, because you need to ask yourself, what is fueling the cattle rustling and banditry in the rift? One, I would say political instigations is very obvious. Number two, the traditions of the day are also doing that. Number three, idleness and unemployment and poverty are also fueling these things. And I'll tell you, it does not make sense that an issue of cattle rustling has to be political every other day, because there are politicians who have benefited from that cattle rustling. Somebody goes to seek vote in the name of stopping it or in the name of fighting of the community. And I will say, when you hear there are helicopters that roam around, helicopters do not fly in the airspace without being noticed. The national airspace is secured by the civil aviation. So there is no helicopter that will move around in this country without the knowledge of the civil aviation. And if you have been given permission by the civil aviation to fly around, then you are known who you are. The individuals or the company owning those particular choppers that are said to move around are individuals and companies registered in this country.
And they are flight logs. I mean, you should be able to tell.
And I'm saying these are people who, for you to fly to a certain level of height, you have to get certification from the civil aviation again. So therefore, if there are people who are moving around with choppers, checking and doing things there, then there are people who know them. They are not flying in vacuum. They are not flying. I mean, we do not possess the technology that we will have helicopters flying off the radar or unnoticed. So what I'm saying is, let's not beat around the bush. And I would say, like Governor Natembeya has said, and that is the truth, whether from those of us who support the government of the day or from others, one of the things that we shall help the government of Kenya Kwanza deliver, it is to remain truthful to the issues of the day. Okay. And the truth of the matter is, Bitok, that the cattle rustling in the rift is financed by people who are in this city. Because I'll tell you, the financiers are not in the ground. Okay. They are here in the city. When you hear government say that they must surrender firearms, and sometimes you see them surrendered, how has firearms traversed all the way and found themselves in the middle of nowhere with nobody noticing it? So I think for me is that is something that must be looked critically. Let us deal with the perpetrators on the ground, but also let us ruthlessly and decisively deal with the people who are financing. And you will not sit here, anybody will not sit here convince me the same way they can't convince the president that the perpetrators are not known by some people. They are known because if you can steal a herd of cattle of about 400 and move them about 28, 29 kilometers, somebody has to know. Somebody has to know. Do you know how long it will take you to move a herd of cattle of that magnitude for 28 kilometers, Bitok? And you want to tell me there is nobody who has noticed it? I mean, let's not kid each other. We have to look at it. What is the role of the security apparatus in enabling this kind of rustling to go on? What is the role of the politician in this entire game? What is the role of the businessmen who are in the business of packaging and exporting meat? So let's not just look at it at the tail end, because what is happening on the ground, Bitok, it is a result of a very well orchestrated plans, because that is the end game. So what they must do is that they must be able to tell us who are these people who are financing this, who are these people who are paying money for what we call fire alarms to get into Baragoy and other places.
Okay. All right, Mheshimiwa. You still have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I want just to say that I think what you are trying to discuss here today really is how to cure this issue.
Yes.
With some level of surety that would have cured the problem. So that we don't appear as a government that we are responding only just to be a little bit busy and to build confidence for a short period of time. And for us to really do that is what we have discussed here today, that the government must have proper intelligence. They must look at the root causes and the problems that causes these problems. They must look at the motivating factors and other agencies, be it businessmen, politicians, who continually fund this particular enterprise. Finally, on the issue of Honorable David Kosing, I think I agree with Governor here that I think Kosing, in doing so really, whether as a politician or otherwise, was actually trying to show some level of mockery to the government. I'm sure on that particular day, there were many people from Pokot South, or Pokot region, who are facing various charges in Kitale law courts. But yet he chose, particularly,
the guys have been accused of rustling.
People or young men who are being accused of banditry. That level of attitude really is quite telling. And is making us now make other imaginations about. You mentioned there's been choppers in those regions which are being said that they could be delivering the firearms and the bullets and such. The government, though, still has all the resources. They have the intelligence, they have machineries, they have technology to actually identify those perpetrators, to actually identify the enterprises where those machineries come from. And the government must look at it as a way of getting the long-lasting solution. For us as Kenyans, and of course leaders from those regions, we continue to urge our people from those regions just to maintain peace. We pray for our children. We have a number of businesses, markets are closed, schools are closed. Our children are growing up with serious problems in their mind, psychological problems. People are growing out with serious trauma. Our children, they are not growing in an environment that really the children should actually grow. Their innocence has been taken away. Many times I go for church events in those regions, and you'll find a young boy of 12, 13 years. They are carrying, guns around as they take care of their cows. For that young person to grow in that kind of an environment, really, you cannot expect him to appreciate life and the humanity like any other person or young children growing in this country. And finally, as we've said many times and again, we have enough confidence that this government has goodwill to put this problem to rest. Let it not employ the mechanism that the previous government have used, because if it has been used and it has never solved the problem, then it means we must do better. And I believe that with that goodwill, then we shall be able to get back to our track, peace, have development in those regions, and have some sense of humanity and peace in Kerio Valley.
Okay. That's it. And I think it's also left to the leaders that come from those regions, that it is upon you, it's imperative upon you to ensure that the people that live on those sides are able to live peacefully with each other. And I think it's a responsibility of those leaders as well to ensure that they support the government in ending this crime. Actually, the contempt that these people have. Can you imagine they've been asked to return the guns? Only 3 guns have been returned in the whole of North and even Laikipia. Only 3. From West Pokot, from Turkana, from Elgeyo Marakwet, from Laikipia. The combination of all those regions, since the orders to return firearms, any illegally owned firearms are returned, only 3 of them have been returned. Copy 3. So it tells you the contempt that these criminals have against government, and how daring they are also to fight against government. It is left to time to see if that is going to work in terms of deploying the military guys and the joint operation that has been declared right there in it will take time to see what is going to happen. But I think even as we move forward, it's time that we started having conversations within the community levels and really understanding where the problem is, what are the challenges, why is this thing continuing to run, who is responsible, where do these cows end up in. Hata ukiona Masai akivukisha ng'ombe hapa kwa barabara, unaona hata kama ni ng'ombe 3, you'll see them. How we don't get to see 300 cows and where they end up in is one of the miracles that we might have to discuss in the 21st century. It's one of the miracles, unless those guys have voodoos and those cows disappear and reappear somewhere. Okay. But if we're able to see if they're physical cows and they're alive and moving, then we should be able to tell where they are. And I think the government also needs to stop mincing words with them. Let them go down there and get to fix this problem once and for all, so that we can have the generation that we have right now can have a chance to the future. We don't have to be talking about these things again in the next century. It's 21st century, for Christ's sake. So if you come from those regions, please ensure that you can preach the message of peace and responsibility as a citizen. We leave it there as we wait also for the courts to make a decision on causing, and also the security agencies to be able to tell us what is happening right down there on those sides of the north. Okay, so we move into the supplementary budget, and there seems to be some win and losses for the hits and misses in the supplementary budget. Remember, the government sent a supplementary budget approval to Parliament, and I will just look at the breakdown in terms of the supplementary budget 2023-2024 proposed budget. Executive is going to spend 2.19 trillion. Okay. Parliament 40.8 billion, Judiciary 21.9 billion, Consolidated Fund Services 991.34 billion. County government is going to get 370 billion. Total budget 3.63 trillion. I think that is actually the budget that's supposed to go to Parliament for approval. Washimiwa, do you feel the money is being placed in the right places in terms of the budget?
One, of course, in line with the Public Finance and Management, Act, there is a justification why supplementary budget should be done. Okay. And the Act, of course, presupposes that national government and also the county governments can, whenever circumstances demands, of course, come up with a supplementary budget. And whenever we talk about supplementary budget, there must be circumstances that, drives the government to do that. One, it could be that there are new arising issues that was not anticipated at the time of doing the budget. There could be changes in terms of the focus that the government wants to do. The government may want to review some of their projects, as well as, of course, come up with new projects that meets the agenda of the government of the day. In the county government, sometimes we also do a supplementary budget because of arising collective bargaining agreements that we now want to ensure that we put in the budget so that to comply with directives of the court or directives of the law. Some of the misses that we normally get with the issue of this phase of budget is that the process that is done is not as comprehensive as it was during the actual formulation of that budget. I'll give you the example of the county government is that whenever we are doing the budget, there's a robust process that includes, budget policy, documents of ADP, fiscal statutory paper, the outlook paper for the budget for that financial year, and now the comprehensive public participation that happens across all the regions within those particular, county. That is same for the national, government. There's a process that drives us towards doing that budget, and the stakeholder engagements that drive us towards doing that particular budget. The problem with the supplementary is that the level of engagement and preparatory events for all other agencies towards doing the supplementary budget is not as robust as that was taken through them during the actual formulation of the budget. One is that just 4 months towards the end of financial year, we are still coming up with supplementary budgets. That means that the government did not initially really appreciate the nature of the projects and events that were going on during that financial year. Two, that phase of budget really cannot be so significant and huge. Because sometimes when you come up with changes that runs into trillions, then one will ask what are the fundamental changes which have happened within those financial years. And finally, supplementary budget can be justified when major changes are geared towards service delivery of the people. The economy of the country is not doing very well, and this government has rolled road itself into where it is today because of their serious and strong messaging to support the hustler narrative, to support the economy of those who are in the villages and those who are in communities. And that I would imagine that this supplementary budget then will be one that drives towards achieving that particular ideals. The institutions which have benefited so much from this supplementary budget, of course, we are yet to see what are the justification that has brought them to that level. But just to mention is that, of course, the law allows for supplementary budget, and it's only incumbent upon the government of the day, be it the county government or the national government, to ensure that the changes that happens, of course, are meaningful, are well-intentioned, and much more particularly geared towards enhancing service delivery.
Okay. Muchendu, what are your thoughts on the supplementary budget?
I think the drafters of the law that provides, is it Article 250? I can't remember if it's Article 251 or 250. It is in the law. The drafters saw it light that government is given an opportunity to reorganize the budget because you can do a budget today and tomorrow there are issues that will arise that would require you to channel money from one place to the other. And because this is public funds, you cannot just wake up and say, I am going to move this fund from this vote to another vote. It has to be passed by parliament, which is a composition of the representatives of the people. So when the parliament is looking at the supplementary budget, they are doing it on behalf of the people. Now the question would be, is it a process which is abused by government to do this or that? I'll give you an example. You're looking at the counties, because both the counties and the central government are around by law to do supplementary budget. When you're given a supplementary budget, there is, I think that is Article 253. I can't really say it is, but I know it's somewhere there. It talks about the president or the governor being allowed to use some substantial amount if it is an emergency. And then the same can be addressed during the supplementary budget. You'll find that in a county like where I come from, the things that are being done outside the current budget, they are not emergencies, but the governor is expecting to actually regularize them during the supplementary, which is coming up. And I think that is one of the things we need to look at, whether the supplementary budget is being used as is being abused by leadership. I would remember during the times of the Honorable Kabogo in Kiambu, it is a supplementary budget that brought a lot of heat in the county when the county was purchasing some Land Rovers that are now parked in the yard of Kiambu County, not being used, about in 2015. And most governors, when they come in, like right now in the national government, they want to do supplementary budget because the current budget does not reflect their ideas. These are the ideas of the former regime, former governors, and the former president. So I think we need to look critically at supplementary budget is a necessary thing in our law to help government reallocate money depending on priorities that come every other day. But we must also look at the parameters we need to make so that that process is not misused, that process is not abused. Because you cannot tell me, and I say this because I don't want to give Elgeyo Marakwet, that's not where I come from. In Kiambu, you cannot say the previous governor and the previous budget did not contain money for beautification of the county headquarters. It did not contain money for universal health care, the so-called universal health care. Our County Health Services Act does not provide for universal health coverage as yet. But somehow, the governor has seen it right to invest hundreds of millions in the so-called universal health coverage, invest millions of money in beautification of the county headquarters. you realize this is not money that this is money which is not budgeted for in the current budget. So you would expect that the governor is waiting for supplementary to regularize this spending, which are not supported by the law because they do not qualify to be an emergency. So somebody somewhere is waiting to abuse the process, of supplementary budget that is coming up in the Kiambu County Assembly to regularize this spending. So I think what we must say is that particular exercise, both in the county assemblies and in the National Assembly, must be seen to reflect the needs of Kenyans. What are we prioritizing in the supplementary budget? And it's going to be an interesting conversation considering the fact that supplementary is done concurrently with the budget statement for 2023-2024.
Okay. All right, moving on quickly. Gabon, Sarah, we don't need CS positions, waste of resources, okay? Let military do what they did in Saboti, SLDF. These bandits are braver than the military, so the military should be sharper enough. Bure, it will be a waste of time and resources, okay? Interesting. Kipchumba Kibwambo, great to see my brother, Kiplagat Sabulei, on the tackle this morning. Great sober leader, Santen Dong Kevo, Asema watching you live from Aligam, Nairobi areas pamoja salimio heshimiwa hapo. Bernard Mwangi, solution to this is for the government to hand over meat commission back to KDF, build slaughtered houses in these regions and declare no cow will be sold alive to any individual. Okay, all cows have to be sold to meat commission in the region and sold as dead weight by the commission. Okay, what if someone shows up with a dead cow? How do you tell where the cow came from? All right, I may need to get more perspective into that. Kisori Ruchip Kimboy, good morning, powerful people. Good morning to you, Nixon. Good morning, Gerald. Vivian Rono, good morning. Good morning to you, Vivian Rono. Sike Kanishas, I think the PSS can handle what the CSS do, lowering the wage bill. Morelio Kipkuru, CS is just unnecessary. Ivo, Muturuanduthi, great conversation. Salimia, Speaker and Governor. CS is great, is great obnobbing tool for the appointees. Okay. Governor, Muturuanduthi. Plagat, I've always been among the top 10. Uja kwa top 10. Ngepata kwa top 10 ngekupata. Alex Yasira, CS, Gerald Bitok for CS communication. Haya, acha ifikie mdosi. What is the performance metric? I think we had looked at that as well already. Looking in at YouTube, Kevin Kipkeme. CS has no benefits at the moment. Let the CS and PS do the job. Kenya, we should stop mentality of waiting for government jobs. Instead of those people who fall in the past poll should look for other things to do. Ukianguka kura, tafuta biashara ingine. Hivyo ndio Kipkemei anasema. All right. Okay. Now we've also had some drama that has been happening of late. It has been about Matiang'i, around Matiang'i. This attempt that Matiang'i came out last week, and said that he had been raided. Now, a few days down the line, the DCI and the police disowned that raid and said they didn't send anybody to go and raid Matiang'i. Now, the DCI has gone to court to seek permission and search warrants to be able to search and retrieve CCTV footages from Matiang'i after the request to provide them failed. Yesterday, they were the police going down there. And Matiang'i has also gotten what we call, what is it called? Anticipatory bail. All right. What's going on, Mwashimiwa?
I think it's more of a circus, more of a drama than even the criminal process or even the legal process. What we are witnessing is a very funny situation where a former CS of Interior, who was so famous for this kind of arrest, is now turning out to be a victim. And just to get to the right perspective, just a few weeks ago when the former CS, came out with the public in the night, accompanied by the former PM, that the police were surrounding his home in Karen, that they wanted to arrest him. I don't know how he got to know that they wanted to arrest him. Maybe they wanted to arrest the security officers. But that was the story then. Then a bit of drama and... DCI said clearly that there was no such action. There were no officers who were sent to the homestead of Mr. Matiang'i. Then, of course, as a responsible government, of course, an agency, I think what they decided to do is to dig into the root of this particular case and in support, of course, of the allegation made by Mr. Matiang'i, is that whenever there are people coming to your homestead and the security agencies are denying any role in it, then you should be able to supply the evidence to say that you see on this date and this hour, there were these people who are moving around my gate. Look at the CCTV cameras. These are the witnesses. My guards who are there. These are the witnesses. To support, of course, protection of your life. Because if these were not policemen, then my life could be in danger. But it's a very funny situation where the person who's supposed to get the support of the government to determine what really was happening is the person who's running away from providing the information that will help, understand what really happened. And I think that's why, of course, the police sought orders from court and permission to do a warrant, the search warrant, because they really wanted, as I would think, to get into the bottom of this matter, to determine really who are these people who are moving around at night, what really was happening, because the person whom they seek to support and protect is not interested himself. And whenever they try to do so, of course, you saw the gimmicks, you saw the drama that ensued. So I will just want to say that it is important that the current government, because of the kind of experience we saw in the previous administration, it should not at any moment, move or find any motivation to act in a manner that the previous administration did by instigating arrest, night arrest, Friday arrest, because that was the darkest moment in this country. But even in doing so, we should not tolerate, some of the quite retrogressive behaviors of people behaving in a manner that, they are disrespecting the security agencies and they want to use politics and build narrative just by instigating events that are not true.
Okay, but we saw some leaders from the side of government rejoicing and actually praising the police for arresting Matiang'i at that point, the first time when he claimed he was being raided. There are some of them who are actually celebrating it somehow. What was informed by that?
I've said really, we must, as this administration, I know it's painful. I know where we've come from, the kind of humiliation that majority of the leaders who form Kenya Kwanza really underwent an extremely painful process because of a highly vindictive, government that was led by the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. That was the dark moments of this country. And I think even the reason why this government is in place today is because Kenyans said enough is enough. And they wanted a government that is coming to serve the people, that is going to follow the rule of law and ensure that they don't use the government machineries and institutions, of course, to instigate unfair treating of others.
Okay.
And for that reason, I will repeat that the current administration must resist temptation, really, to revenge. They must resist temptation to fall into the trap of those quite retrogressive mechanism of dealing with the opponents or those who have opposed this government. But having said so, the government must also not, stop from taking action against individuals who want to use very silly retrogressive gimmicks just to get sympathy from the public or to pass particular messaging to the public.
Okay, Muchendu.
Well, the government has to discharge its mandate in terms of applying the law and its full force on matters that they should be. But as the Speaker has said, the current opposition has tried to portray this government as a vindictive government, as a government that is going to operate under vindictive nature. And we as a government must not be seen to be what the opposition is saying. So while we are discharging our mandate as government and while the security operators are discharging their mandate, let us remember, as the Speaker has ably put, one of the fueling force to Kenyans to bring this government to power, it is because of what they saw as the preferential treatment of some people and lack of respect for others. And Kenyans were moved to a point of saying, no, we will sympathize with the people who are being bullied by the government of the day. And subsequently, we got the Kenya Kwanza government. Now, we must be very careful that we do not get to where the government of Uhuru Kenyatta lost touch with the people. because the discord between the administration of Uhuru Kenyatta and the public was how Uhuru Kenyatta seems to deal with those people who could not agree with him. And we must not fall to that trap as a government. And that's why I think when we saw the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, there are things that we talked about. We talked about housing as being a solution to a housing problem and creating jobs. Let us stick to that particular conversation. We spoke about industrialization and manufacturing. Can we be seen to put our energy into those things? Because I will tell you, and this is a conversation I will not fail to mention anywhere I appear on a studio, that manufacturers are running in this country and the next day they take off. Because have we addressed the cause organism of why companies like Butter Bullet, which is based in my constituency, is contemplating to move to other countries? Are we addressing the reasons why companies like Farmers Choice have scaled down their production? Are we addressing the issues of why former big companies like Arena Development stopped operations? We need to look at the issues that puts this government at the heart of Mwananchi. And I can tell you, and I say this without fear of contradiction, the conversation of whether Matiang'i is arrested or not, Bitok, does not feature in the conversations I hear in the village. The conversation I hear in my village is how young men are looking for jobs, how young men are going to put money in their pocket. And one of the ways that we are going to move this country to the next level, it is if we address our tax regime and we address our investment laws. Are we handling a punitive kind of a system to the manufacturer? Because I'll tell you, one of the biggest enemies from investors is when you over-regulate. And that is one of the problems that is facing this country. We are over-regulating things, and therefore manufacturers cannot have an opportunity. If you go to other countries, they are either giving companies, especially those in manufacturing business, tax reliefs or waivers to be able to set up shop and be able to have a base. I want to imagine Kenya is doing better, Bitok, than Uganda in terms of the worthy of the economy broke. But if today you go and any reason into us, you type to something called Uganda Investment Authority, you will find these guys have already established economic zones. If, Bitok, you are interested in producing cement, you will find a whole economic zone in Tororo, in Uganda, where they produce cement. If you are interested in farming, there is an entire big economic zone for milk products, where you will go rent, you go down at affordable price, power is already installed, you start producing. But in this country, a manufacturer is made to start from zero. One of the punitive things we have put in our laws is that 30% of any investor coming must be owned by a Kenyan who is not a carrier of that dream. Why should Bitok come into this country and immediately start getting a local investor who will probably frustrate him to relinquish 30% of your investment? That is one. Are we not able to set a one-stop shop where if the speaker feels he wants to come and invest in Kiambu County, he can walk into one shop and get out with all the certification and have what you call a friendly costing of these things and start doing business. So when the government is seen to deal with matters of the arrest of Matiang'i, I will not tell you that is eliciting the good vibes in support of this government. The people out there will not really matter. In fact, when the voters went to the ballot, they were not contemplating a situation whereby when we come, we would start fixing those people we think that messed us with us. Nonetheless, we are not saying that the government should not prosecute those who are found culpable. They should be prosecuted by the full force of the law. But in the eyes of Kenyans who went to the ballot and chose the Kenya Kwanza government, the government must be seen to do things that are actually in concurrency with the very reasons Kenyans went to the ballot. And Kenyans went to the ballot so that we can be able to expand the economy. The only way we will expand our tax net is by bringing in investors. And the only way investors will even entertain the idea of coming to Kenya, it is, are we addressing the issues affecting the investor Bitok? Today, 70% of your electricity bill does not go to Kenya Power. 70% of the charges in your token, it is taxes levied by the central government. And therefore, people have always seen Kenya Power as the villain in this story of the hiked cost of electricity. But electricity, Kenya Power is selling you electricity at a good price. The central government comes and levels a lot of taxes. And therefore, because Kenya Power does not possess the ability to pay that tax on behalf of its consumer, that particular taxes are forwarded to you as a consumer. Now, if the Energy Regulatory Authority, the Ministry of Energy, Kenya Power, KenGen, and another institutions that are involved in our power regime come together, we can address the issues of how we caution manufacturers so that they can afford power in a reasonable price to lower the cost of production. Subsequently, the cost of those things will go down, and eventually companies will be able to employ more people. Again, government having subsidized costs of tax for the manufacturer. If the manufacturer is able to employ more people, the government will widen what is called the pay tax net, and they will still recover those things. So the government must be seen, Bitok, to do things that are in line with the thinking of Kenyans who went to the ballot to elect them.
All right. Thank you so much. Remember, you can call in. Bunga la Mwenye nchini kwa nambari ni 0731027727 or 0731027727 or 0731027727. Bunga la Mwenye nchini kwa 0731027727. Naza piga simu 0731027727. Mtoni wa Jimmy, Governor P. Muchendu, as always, does it for me. I can't even highlight one specific thing of all the remarkable stuff. His voice is all impactful. Muchendu is just wow, right? Asante sana. Bunga la Mwenye nchini liko wazi. Nambari ni 07310227. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Finally, after the year is old, anaingia kwa sasa. Anashangaa dunia imebadilika. Tell him the next time he's going to come back atatumii yapata Yesu amerudi.
Ati Yesu amerudi wapi?
Yes. Otherwise, I want to say hello to both of them. The panelists, they are doing something I'm watching and I'm thinking to myself, this is just the kind of conversation we should be having every other day. A big hello to the people of Marakwet County. He's a neighbor in that area, which is very much bandit prone. I'm not going to talk much about this issue we are talking about right now. I'm going to talk about the battery and some things we highlighted about it being organized crime. Very well funded, very good network, and essentially, in fact, they must be having a couple of duty parties as a godfather somewhere. It's like the mafia, the Kenyan mafia. The banditry has become mafia-like. That means there's a lot of sacred cows and a lot of untouchables. What has made me think that we need, as much as yes has said, the boots are on the ground, the fact that it's being it's under the police command is a bit worrying for me. Gerald, you remember when Kibaki came in, eh?
Yes.
There was a good story about land defense. Yes, ilikuwa inaongozwa na yule jamaa anaitwa Matakwei. He used to cut off people.
Matakwei.
Matakwei, yes. Alikuwa anakata masikio ya watu. And he was crazy. He was insane. And when Kibaki landed, alipoweka Biblia chini, jeshi ikaanguka huko, and they cleared the forest. And it was not funny. Nobody was smiling with another. It was military off. Okay. I don't know why I have the opinion that good plus cops do not always. You remember what this? The interagency operations are not always successful in Kenya. And we're dealing with a good network, a banditry network that is so well oiled. It's a well oiled machine. There's the money in dollars, not even in shillings. There's the weapons. There's like the way the speaker was saying, these people never run out of arms.
Okay.
Our policemen run out of bullets, but these bandits, who like Muchendu is mentioning, these are semi-literate, they never run out of arms. Where did they get the training for sharpshooting like that?
Okay.
How did they manage to outwit our police? How do they manage to literally clear a whole contingency of cops? This means that these people have sophisticated weaponry. These are people who are brainiac. If they were to be trained properly into doing good, they would do so much. These are people who are very well equipped naturally with proper brainwork. They can be able to be, progressive members of society. But now again, our leaders are using them. And like both Muchendu and the speaker has said, nobody is pointing fingers without extrajudicially. Nobody is saying that he can care for seeing all those who are suspected. They are guilty, they are innocent until proven guilty. Right. But like Muchendu has said, we attract negative attention towards itself. So Gerald, the only truth is it's us, it's our leaders, it's even the local population. We know the people who do this. We are afraid of them. We do not want to see. And we also feel that as long as things are happening in Yamaji, we can be safe. Uprooting people from their homes, the way these bandits are doing, the women and children are the ones who suffer most, because they have to go and live somewhere where it's not even safe. They do not have homes. They do not have, literally, Gerald, you understand what I'm talking about. So, like Muchendu is saying, you have to go to the root, because bandits in the mountains who've never been to Marakwet has a more sophisticated weapon than the police. What are we doing? It's a joke. So, I guess now my opinion would be what Kibaki did to Marakwet is what Kindiki should do to those guys. The interagency cooperation in this has never seen it work. It made a business in I would not want to get to the Rift Valley. In fact, that's a very rich region of this country for there to be that kind of a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Asante Sarah. Thank you so much for joining in. All right. There's some feedback from microphones. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Niambie.
Niko salama Gerald. Let's talk about this today and cattle rustling.
Okay. Who am I speaking to?
No. Dada?
Naongea na nani?
Kabon Sara.
Yes, Sara, mambo vipi?
Mambo salama kabisa.
Karibu hapi ni haya. Ongea mama.
Nothing my brother. Let me talk about this KDF. And the cattle rustling in both Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo County, Laikipia, those places.
Okay.
One, Kindiki should be very serious.
Okay.
Unlike the way he did in Baringo South. He stood and the bandits were around about 700 meters. Wakimwambia, sisi ndio tuko hapa, mutatufanyia nini? Ruto should know that we voted for Kenya Kwanza because he promised us 100 days in office. Nikishaweka Biblia tu chini namna hii pap. Bandits imeisha Baringo.
Okay.
Imeisha kweli?
Bado.
And like the likes of Kibaki, wameacha legacy. Support land defense force bado unasikia mpaka saa hii.
Bado kusikia.
Yes, that is the way Ruto should be.
Okay.
And this guy Natembea was an eye opener to these people, from the president to the politicians to the members of parliament. That guy alisema ukweli wa mambo.
Okay.
And I think I wish Kundura is hearing what we are saying. Arundi await the clip of Matiang'i na fuatilia hiyo duka yenye iko Marigat yenye inasemekana vitu wako vinawekwa huko. Then from there We know who is the owner of that market, that shop. Hapa tusibembelezane. Some of us, we are feeding people now who fled from their home. Na saa hii sisi wengine, we voted out the son of our former president, knew that Kenya Kwanza will help us. Let Ruto not make us to regret.
Okay.
Because tukiamua ku regret, wananchi ni wale.
Itakuwa shida.
Hata uko na risasi ngapi, na wakiamua hiyo risasi yote tutakufiatulia, utoke kwa hiyo gate utatoka. Na risasi ni hiyo voters yake. And also, these MPs should tell Ruto the truth.
Okay.
Mambo ya kwenda kupamba huko na kukunywa chai state house na state lodges, sio hizi. And it is time now for governors and MPs. They should be on ground. Hiyo story ya kusema tujui leo tuko Mombasa, wengine wamepanga ndege, kwani tulikuwa tuwapanga mandege?
Swala nyeti.
Hakuna wafanya kazi wananchi. Gerald, some of us we have been pinned down kabisa kwa sababu ya kusema ukweli. But some of us hatuogopi, you speak the truth.
That is it. That is what
and
should happen.
From even the speaker of Elgeyo Marakwet County, he's there with you.
Yes.
Tell him to be visiting those people. Wajua ground inakaa namna gani, sio kukaa itini headquarters na Nairobi na kusema ati tuko sawa. Tuko sawa wapi? From around Mogin Segile tuko yote. Is it okay? Or one of them can take his own his own family members. Watoto na bibi wateremshe huko chini, waenda wakae huko. Huyo jamaa salala kweli?
Hata mimi siwezi lala.
So tuambiane ukweli, Gerald. And people should not be throwing words to Matembea. Matembea is an eye opener.
Okay.
Na kuna mwanaume anaweza sema ukweli bila aliambia rais macho kwa macho. Au wengine ni kupiga makofi, rais nyumbani iko mzuri na huko chini imeoza. Okay. And Ruto should have people on ground, not even the politicians. Different people.
Okay.
Vile moja alikuwa anafanya, anakuwa na report kutoka ground. MP akifika anamwambia hapa iko salama, MP anamwambia mzee hapa iko salama, anamuuliza na hapa. MP anashangaa, how did this guy got the information? So he should ask people from ground, na wachana hiyo yenye kuja kupumbaza yeye macho na kuambia Baringo iko salama. Ndio Marakwet iko salama. Turkana iko salama na imeoza. No way. Na kama Ruto anataka unajua sasa wananchi wakiamua hapa kuchomeana sindano kusema no vote in 2027. Unajua hapa huwezi shinda hii wananchi.
Ukweli.
So Ruto should listen to this na asikie from ground. Awache hii siasa ya kwenda kupewa chai kudanganyana na chai hapo stage na kusema sisi tuko salama. Salama gani?
Kweli mami.
So please, some of us we are feeling the pain. Hata kama tumeenda kutafuta kwingine, we still remember in my house. I have even taken karibu 12 people who those are relatives from my mother's side from Partabwa ward. Which died and they are my relatives. So nani president afanye hiyo kazi, sisi tunataka tukipumua hiyo story ya Setor Rustling kama history kwa sisi. We will be reading in history books.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, Mama Sarah. That's very painful. Haya. Interest ya masa. Ona tayari it's already we are 10 minutes past 9 am. Mheshimiwa, mambo kwa kaza ndio mingi kwako. Nasikia watu wengi wanasema mheshimiwa, sasa kazi kwako.
Asante sana. I think you guys can now see.
I think we can take this one call and we can get it into that. Okay. Chairman.
Gerald,
yes,
that lady who just spoke. Ameniamusha nitamuka.
Ameamusha Masai America.
You need to invite her to the taco. That lady should come and talk.
She has said the truth. Ameongea haki yake kabisa.
Yep.
Boss.
And this is what our president needs to hear. Vile amesema watu wanakuja kunywa chai, wacha wakunywa chai yao vile wanataka, lakini he needs to know what's happening in the ground. And for heaven's sake, he needs to talk to Kindiki. I don't like seeing him in military uniform. And all he says is words. The lady said very well. He went to the place anaongea na wajamaa wanampigia risasi huko anamwambia kuja hapa. And he does nothing. That's not how you're going to run this issue. We need to deal with this issue in all aspects. Military operation and economic operation. How can you help these people to be, economically independent? Then the issue of somebody coming to bribe them, because this is somebody bringing money to have you pick up a gun to go kill somebody else. Why? Because you don't have the money. You don't have a means of survival. But if you provide that process, then these issues will go away.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, that is the only approach. And just quickly about the Matiang'i saga, guys, I said that yesterday in our show, and I said we have to have a stop at some point.
Okay.
We cannot continue the same story, one government after the other, one government after the other. If somebody did something wrong, like Governor said, let's follow the rule of law. Go to court, gather your evidence. If this guy said he was people came to arrest him and it was false information, just go to court and say, hey, this guy provided false information. Let him come and defend himself and prove that what he was saying was true. And if it's not, then the appropriate action, legal action, should be taken. If he's supposed to be jailed, let him be jailed. But if it's the truth, then let's come out. But you cannot go to court. You seek request for warrant of search warrant. The judge denies you, and then you still go ahead and mobilize the whole contingent of police to go to the compound. You are essentially repeating the same thing that you are complaining that was done to you. An eye for an eye make the whole world go blind.
That's true.
So to me, that's where we need really to change our mindset. And I am very appreciative of this show and what you do, Gerald.
Thank you.
Let people speak the truth and let people always face and say, this is how it is. Bwana Speaker, karibu sana to the taco. Here we tackle each other, but we always speak what is in our mind and respect one another and listen to each other. Thank you so much for your candid contributions, and I look forward to you coming back again.
Thank you.
Asante. Thank you so much, my brother Chairman Joel Arama. Asante sana. Also, thanks for the diaspora show. You guys are doing well. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Haya, asante. Haya. Mheshimiwa, kazi kwa.
Very well. Nimekaribishwa to the taco.
Hapa mambo inachapukanga.
Mimi ni mono,
Hapa mambo inachapukanga.
But I think what the callers are expressing we talk are genuine concern. In fact, when we talk here, really, people would accuse us of being in hotels, having a cup of tea, and just having a rhetoric discussion on what really things are. But when you hear these callers, Sarah, these are people who are really faced the brunt of these brutalities.
It was being affected directly.
These are people who they can no longer do their business as usual. They cannot live like any other Kenyans. Their children are growing in an environment that is full of brutality because of these attacks. And the message really is not even to us, but the message is to the presidency, the message is to the government, and the message is to the agencies that have the responsibility of ensuring that calm, security and peace is restored in these regions. I want to assure them that, of course, as part of the local leadership, and part of the leaders, of course, in this government, we will try the much we can, as we are doing now, to tell the government the truth, to also assist the government understand really the actual situation as they are, so that, they also come up with solutions which are practical. I have mentioned earlier, and I will still mention that perhaps the effort the government has done now and before, they may have done it in good faith, but just maybe that was not the right diagnosis of the problem. And we continue getting so busy as government trying to address this issue without getting it right. And from all those cocktail of a system of this criminality, I think the government cannot claim to be helpless in trying to combat these issues. They must be able to look at all the agencies and the networks that support this criminal network, from those who fund it, from the system that emanates the communication, bullets, the firearms, and everything, from this other world to the world that those criminality happens. We must be able to use our intelligence as government and determine who are these people and stakeholders who support these agencies, either through business or supply of firearms, or in any other way, of course, encouraging those young people to continue fighting. Because I'm told that sometimes it's even an issue of election. That as a local leader, when you are seen not to support the young boys who fight, in quotes, for the community, then of course you stand to suffer a political ramification. But we must be able to look at it and rise beyond the petty political gains. Look at what happened in Marakwet East during the time of Lina Chebi Kilimo. As a woman, she came out so strongly, and her approach was even much more simpler, yet more responsive to the problem of ensuring that there was cohesion and the communities within that region, come up together. Beyond the responses we are talking about now, what is the role of the county government and now the development of that region that could also help in some way ensure that we have a sustainable peace and calm in those regions? One, we must be able to save those regions from underdevelopment. It is truly a remote region. I would urge both counties, that is West Pokot, Baringo and Elgeyo Marakwet, which are bordering now to the region that I am myself, to ensure that we have good passable roads within those regions. We have huge chunk of land within those regions. The national government can do an irrigation and ensure that region, of course, also is fairly developed, so that people can see a different sense of that region, other than just a region where we graze, and fight for the area to do the livestock. Imagine if the county government was to do, and the national government, of course, was to do those kind of projects, education facilities, farmers training facilities, a new chunk of land and irrigation, good transport, networks, and other facilities that could bring peace within those regions. Even we could even station a military training camp in those regions, so that truly we open up that region and perhaps in one way or another one try to move in and bring solution to this quite endemic problem in that region. But the callers have really painted the picture. I don't want to say much more than that, than to say that from our own small way, we'll continue preaching the right message to the government, and hopefully our people can live in peace once again.
As a leader, what are some of the pledges that you give to the people of that side, especially Kerio Valley and the side of the north?
As a leader, of course, one, you understand that the security is not a default function. That's the function of the national government. But because we are the leadership, we exist, of course, to assist our people in all matters, be it social, economic, and various welfare issues that touches on the people. What we are trying to do in Elgeyo Marakwet is to ensure that we come up with a conflict resolution mechanism within those regions. We want to bring religious organizations from across those regions, so that even on their own, they can preach peace amongst these communities, and from time to time bring those communities together in one meeting and be able to talk this problem out. What we're also doing as a county government is that every 1st of January, every year 1st of January, we do a prayer meeting in Kapsait, which is a border between of Marakwet and Pokot. And we bring together the leadership, we bring together the leadership of West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet, and of course the communities in those regions, the Leland and such, so that we can talk peace, and continue fostering cohesions amongst these communities. I don't want to say that this is now the real solution, but it's part of the solution in building that cohesion between these communities. I also want to urge the speakers of West Pokot, the speaker of Baringo and myself, and Turkana, Laikipia and Samburu, that we can come together, because MCAs man wards, and these wards where this banditry happen are the wards.
They are closer to them.
They're closer to them. Okay. An MCA is a closer leader to those families. He knows those people. When we have a quite objective, meaningful engagement as local leadership, we can find a way really to preach peace amongst these people, and even assist the government really understand the real issues, so that even as the government is moving in to bring the solution, it can be targeted on real problems, not just appearing to be responding to the menace. Yet there could be misses on how the approach is done. So the local leadership has a role to play, and personally I will bring those county assemblies together so that we respond, all of us, whenever we are needed to do so.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Muchendu.
I think, as we have Lily said, if we involve the local leadership, and the local leadership starts with the MCAs of those areas, they have a better, great intact and touch with the common person there. They would know where the problem is coming in. And as I have said, and I will reiterate this, and I say this without any apologies, that until such a time we are able to deal with the finances of that conflict at those areas, we will keep on doing this thing over and over and over again. Currently, Bitok, what the CS Kithiki Kindule is dealing with in those areas right now, he is dealing with the results of what has been planned, financed, and well executed. We are now dealing with the effects of that planning. Okay. And as we mitigate the most important issues currently, that is to ensure that there is peace and harmony in those areas, we must, with the same spirit, with the same resilience, with the same determination, and with the same zeal, deal with the people who are perpetrating those crimes on the ground. Because as I've told you, you will not convince me that someone who has never left the rift is owning a state-of-the-art gun. He did not correct it somewhere in the bush. Okay. Somebody facilitated the buying, the transportation, and the distribution of those guns to those people. So we must, as we deal with the issues currently on the ground, we must deal with the root source of this conflict. And the root source is some rich people seated in this city who are financing and planning and executing these raids and fueling this conflict because they benefit out of it either politically or financially. So we must deal with those people categorically. And we as we deal with the banditry and the people who are I mean, you know, the people we will arrest their speaker and take to court, they are somewhere maybe number 4, number 5 in that food chain. Okay. Those people who we will arrest with the guns. Number 1 and 2 are somewhere seated pretty clear. The person who is giving out that money and the person who is actually in charge of the distribution operation of those firearms and oversees the stealing and funding of those people is pretty seated somewhere looking at us dealing with people who are actually victims of circumstances. So let's deal with the people who are financing this banditry and cattle rustling ruthlessly. And as Netbear has put, I concur with his words that some of those people are seated here in the city. They know of the government plans even before they are executed on the ground. Okay. And that is why we are losing the war.
All right. Thank you so much. 23 minutes past 9 a.m. 23 minutes at the top of the hour. 23 minutes past 9 a.m. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in. So it's a pleasure. Asante sana mheshimiwa for coming. Wish you all the very best. As you go back to Elgeyo Marakwet, we hope you're also going to ensure that there is peace. Muchendu and muti hapa, mbuzi yetu hujai ileta tukule.
Let me tell you, you will not dismantle the respect the tacklers have for me on live, because you are supposed to bring together the people who are supposed to eat that mbuzi. Okay. You have not done that. We were supposed to agree on when, because mbuzi we are not buying. Sisi ni wakulima, tunatoa tu kwa shed. Unakuja unakula. But Bitok, because you know when we come here every morning, you should also, some of us, kama unajua sasa speaker anajulikana ile kazi currently anafanya ni kukua speaker wa Elgeyo Marakwet, na speaker pia ni wakili. Ukitaka wakili wa, I know he is a corporate lawyer. He has worked with corporates. And so people, when they want corporate services, despite him being the speaker, he can. Mimi ukitaka nyumba, saizi mimi najenga nyumba. Mambo ya serikali ya Kiambu imenishinda. So I am working with a company called Digro Square Investments. We are doing houses for apartments for sale. If you have friends like Chairman Arama hapa, ukitaka authenticity, originality, and you want something that you not be duped. I am putting my name out there as the head of marketing. Ongea na mimi. We have houses remaining in our Ruaka phase 1. We have houses coming up in the Ruaka phase 2 that is about to start. We have houses remaining in our Kiambu Area 5 phase 1. If you want those, talk with me. Digro will sort you. And this is the interesting thing, Bitok. If we sell you an apartment and you put like a 2-bedroom apartment will go for about 5 million, and you put a seed money of 1 million, Bitok, we will enter into an agreement with you where you can pay, if you are paying a rent of 50,000 before or a rent of 70,000, you will come and start paying the same rent until such a time you can clear the balance. So the idea here is to make housing affordable.
Manyumba ziko wapi?
Manyumba ziko Ruaka, tuko na nyumba Ruaka imemalizika. Tuko na nyumba Ruaka inaanza, you can buy we are selling 50% of plan. Unaweza kuja ubaye manyumba ziko pale Reabai next to Kist. If you come, we have over 400 units there. So if you want to be sorted and you are in uko kwa kina Arama ama Australia kwa kina Sergeant, and you want to own an apartment, we are the choice for you because the payment plan is as friendly as they come. So Digro Square will set you up, and officially Bitok, I will be having talks with you so that we can make the partnership official, because we also want to sort out the issues of housing for those who have gone to the foreign lands to earn money and help them. So we will be talking with you because I have that capacity to actually put out that deal so that we can have Kenyans sorted. You don't have to keep renting. If you can put a seed money, we will allow you to pay the same rent and until such a time you can clear and the house becomes yours.
Asante. Harama hapa amesema ataongea. Amesema governor we shall talk. Sasa kitu kakaingia usinisahau. Nasikia pesa send wave.
Harama, we will make this official. We won't be talk to come and see what we are doing. Understand the systems, because I know the taco is also a show of integrity. We will not put out something there that is not good for Kenyans.
Asante. All right, thank you. 29 minutes past 9 a.m. It's been a pleasure having you. This has been Sheria Wiki edition of the 17th of February 2023. Tarehe 17 mwezi wa pili mwaka 2023. We've been having Mheshimiwa Philemon Sabulei, the Speaker of Elgeyo Marakwet County, na Governor P. Muchendu. Ekuru kwa naona kuna apology hapa, amesema kuna mambo ilizidi kidogo, emergency alikuwa na asubuhi, but he'll be with us next week. It's been a pleasure having you, and every tackler was joined us this morning. It's always a pleasure having you. Until Sunday, also I need to apologize. On Sunday we'll not be having the men only show. So we'll come back again on next Sunday. But on Monday, of course, we have the Common Sense edition. Same time, 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. It's Common Sense edition, life and money. Until then, enjoy your weekend and bye-bye. Take care.